I mean, they got enough to stay for 4 weeks.
I'm sure.
So anything positive, negative, anything you put on the table would be helpful.
Tried to get here a little early to look at my last set of notes. Of course, my early is
I was late.
basically on time. Yeah, you were late, so I beat you here, aiming to get here early. Well, here's my summary of last time. History, on the history part, is depression, war, VBA, heresy, football, marriage, Chicago. And then under community, discussion, theology, the sacred, criticism, democracy, incognito.
Mm-hmm.
All is topic. I mean, I have all those as kind of topic areas on the ideas and history.
Mm-hmm.
Places we could go, things we could do.
Did you put sacred down for the big picture?
Yeah, theology. Her in the sacred.
Okay. Now, anything in your real life? Negative, positive, that we can go from.
Well, I feel like I'm just kind of floating along, taken by the winds that are blowing. You know, I mean, whether it's
Is that good or bad?
well, it's I'm not sure that it's either. It's, I guess I don't feel real self-directed right now.
Meaning? I mean, lack of meaning or stuff, like direction?
No, there's not a lack of meaning. I mean, there are times in my life when I'm driven and I'm pushing to do something, get somewhere, whether it's just the summer or not. I say driven, driving myself at something, towards something. Not in that mode right now.
Does it make you think more or less?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think back to when I'm in my call it just kind of dead ahead, working 20 hours a day mode. There's not a lot of time for thinking. You're executing what you've already thought about, and so in that sense, there must be more time for thinking. And I do more reading now and more thinking. But that's been true generally in the last few years. I suppose it's not a particularly good thing. I feel like it's kind of a malaise driven along by dealing with family stuff and work stuff.
Well,
They're not destined to trigger anything exciting.
I can identify with it. Of course, I had to stop a way of life more than most people realize. Going from doing the hammering to showing somebody how to hammer is a hell of a change. Physiologically, it's a hell of a change.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can identify a little bit with that.
Well, seeing you come to grips with that, or try to, though I still see you chomping at the bit sometimes, but I think in your mind you at least come to. You don't always carry through on it, but it seems like you've adopted that as a. Well, I'm not sure it cuts down any stress in your life.
To some degree, it does. Yeah.
I see you taking on more kind of.
But I set parameters more, which makes a difference in stress.
I see you doing a lot on Moody though.
Yeah, but I still set my own parameters.
That is not. It seems like it could be stressful. Not just the fundraising, but the making things happen behind the scenes, dealing with Ed and Ron, getting people in line, putting it together.
Well, I have no problem with. I would assume there'd be stress out there. If there's no stress out there, what the hell am I here for? I mean, I am not here to be comfortable. I mean, I'm over the hump of even saying that's where I should feel. I mean, that's the way I feel. I mean, one has to go through a period where our own comfort is not why we're here. Bully for you, I'd really like to be comfortable. I don't. I'm pretty sure that that's not a motivating factor at all in my life. And I would assume dealing with the unknown, unpredictable folks around. I would assume that trying not to allow our society to become homogenized is going to be stressful.
And after all, the ultimate in comfort is lying down, sleeping, closest to death.
Going out to eat and meeting for cocktails with people who will not bring up any serious subject.
No, I mean, if you talk about taking all the stress out, then you're leading a fairly bland, tasteless.
Yeah, as somebody told me once, when you look at the graphs in the operating room, you don't want it this way.
That's right.
You want it this way.
Yeah. You got the ups and downs. That's right.
Longboat Key is this way. The folks living, it's just, they want it this way. That's dead.
Yeah.
So I have to resign myself to the fact I think the physical is not unimportant to one's being able to contribute, whatever that is. And so I know I got a bad heart. I know that the kind of work I did was not good for my heart physically. If you don't have a bad heart, the kind of work I did was good for it physically.
Yeah.
strength exercises are good for your heart if you don't have a bad heart. They're bad for it if you got a bad heart. And so, I don't have a conflict. I have the time to go out to the dunes for 2 hours and walk for an hour and a half, fast as I can. You know, that's 6 miles, 6 miles. It's good for here. And if I'm not cheating on something that I can see, nobody's asking me to spend a lot of time doing something. I'm girding myself for what? I don't even know. But having a healthy body is not stupid. And my diet's not stupid if I want to serve. I haven't got the vaguest idea how to serve other than what I'm doing, which isn't too much. I'm ready. I'm ready for more.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I got time to get my body in shape as much as I can. Fun. I don't think that hurts my thinking, as a matter of quite the contrary.
Well, it seems like you have more time for thinking through lots of stuff these days.
When I take a 6 mile walk, I usually come back with one little new action piece.
Sure.
Not much, but a little one.
Sure. No, and that's a luxury in some senses, is to have the time to think through the things that need to be thought through. I say it's a lot. I mean, I go back to kind of how I started. Is that you're better off being on the roller coaster in this life with ups and downs. Now you can either be in the front of the roller coaster with your foot on the gas, saying "Let's go," or you can sit in the back sometimes and get taken, whether you want to go there or not. I think a lot of people get taken on their ups and downs. Don't ride them with enthusiasm and excitement. I think about what happens to whether it's Mary Freeland or whatnot, whether they.
When I take a walk, I said, I really should go see so and so. And I can think of 5 of these in the last 10 days. And whenever I do, that usually means something else. I mean, whether it's going to see Steve Rodriguez, house across from Mary's, and I know you don't have the money to do a big paint job, but you're painting the house, and I know you're. Anyhow, I got Casa doing. I had to negotiate now $12 an hour in order for them to get 9 or 10. Even though the one guy he'd already hired is only getting $9 an hour, and he's in charge. And he doesn't have too much, but he needs to get it done for FHA. Now, he wouldn't have called me if I hadn't on my walk. Why don't I go see if they need a little help?
Sure.
I mean, there's one thing after another like that comes on my walks. And the whole Jody Allen thing was that way.
What's the Jody Allen?
I never said a word to her about money. She's chairman of Friendship. And going to see her and talking with her got her to the board meeting, which made her very excited and so forth. That all comes from a walk, and then thinking without action is a waste of time. If you don't put action with it, it's bullshit to me.
Sure.
And also, the action might be stupid. But so far, most. But you don't know that. You don't do it because you think it might be stupid. You do it because you think it's a good idea, or you don't do it.
Well, sometimes it doesn't work out the way you'd hoped it would.
Yeah, I would say.
But that doesn't make it necessarily stupid. Yeah. Except in the lines of, that's not the stupidest idea I've ever heard.
No, I don't know where this is going, Hilltop. My guesstimate is that it's something that I can back off on before the year's up, pretty much.
Yeah, that's interesting about Hilltop because I see all the enthusiasm. I mean, you could, the board meetings, you know, I mean, there's people been doing stuff. And all of that has had to, I mean, you got to keep tinkering with it, you know? I mean, it's not something that just happens automatically.
The John Puncher doesn't happen automatically.
No. I mean, none of that stuff happens automatically. But you got to keep tinkering with it. Keep, you know, goading here. You know, it's like the staff person we never hired to help us do things is one of the roles you're playing in Hilltop is going here and punching this button saying, you know, remind Ivan to remind George to remind Ed to do this. What do you think about this? Wouldn't it be good to do that? Keeping all these little pieces kind of tinkered with so that they keep moving a little bit. And when they get together, there's all kinds of energy, that things have been happening. And, I think you're right. It's something, I mean, it's like, I think about my role there is I try to make, in my own little way, some things happen. Some of them I just do, whether it's a zoning or whatnot. Some stuff to move it ahead, but I'm not on the board. You know, the fundraising thing has got to start and end. It's something, well, it may not happen. But I think you're right. It's something that we can step back from. It'll be launched and there'll be people running it.
Yeah, I give it a year for education and all this kind of stuff you're talking about. Hopefully, once the doors are open, I'll be a contributor, period, financial contributor. Now, whether I do see the potential of that neutral place for tenants unions, for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that the contact will probably be continuing because of what it means to that community if it does what we hope it'll do. But
I see a whole new direction for Project Neighbors. We don't need to be involved with outsiders. The outsiders are coming. The black and browns are coming like crazy right now. That game's over. And staring us in the face is a beat down community of people. And and to bring individuals and community together is something that America doesn't know shit about. Valparaiso doesn't know anything about individuals and community. It's probably one of the weakest places you can live and have a sense of community.
Where, Valpo?
I mean, other than some old guard people running the political offices and waterworks and a few things, there's no citizenship here.
Well,
I don't think it's anywhere very much.
I see wall builders.
Yeah. I got mine and I'm going to keep it that way. By God.
I had an interesting discussion with the Bodensteiners yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, because we talked about this piece of property which is gone. And then they're talking about this 10-acre piece and what they might do there. Just as a way, you know, I said, well, you know, it might be possible to build a house, a facility, a lodge or something that a number of families could use in a sane kind of way.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Where you've got some shared kitchen and dining and a great room to be in, and some private space for bedrooms and bathrooms and that kind of thing. Instead of, as we do in the society, I mean, Project Neighbors does it too, because that's the society we live in, is that we don't create a sane way for people to live. We participate in what's there and get a house for them so that they got their own house, their own stability. I think there's all kinds of reasons to do that. But I also think there might be a reason to think, I mean, this is just a vacation place, the Bodensteiners you're talking about. But there might be there is a reason. We were talking about earlier, how are our kids going to live together?
You see, you can't do these things publicly or privately. We talked way back there, the Marxian way would be to build that house with the private and public rooms and so forth, and expect the right people to live there because you got the right project. You have to start with the right people.
No,
the right mindset.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why it was interesting to me.
That's very difficult in our society.
Well, it was interesting to me with the Bodensteiners, who have always put their money where their mouth is in terms of Project Neighbors. I mean, they've been one of the few that have come up with significant contributions other than just their energy. I mean, there's a lot of people that have come up with some energy, but the Bodensteiners will also toss some money in, right? And, they've got an interesting relationship with their kids, and they are some people that might consider.
I totally agree. I would say that if you can do this, two things are happening. You'll enjoy life better. It'll be three things. It'll be cheaper. Four things. It'll be EPA sounder. The most important thing is that you'll be a witness to the larger community of how things ought to be.
Yeah.
That's the most important.
I mean, it brings some people together in ways that...
if that can be done on a regular living basis, not just vacation land, that might be step one, kindergarten.
Yeah.
But we got to do something like that in our society. But it's got to be done starting with that person.
Yeah, and I guess that's something. I mean, it's the utopian communities that wall out the rest of the world isn't,
or kill the rest of the world.
Right. But you know what I mean, is that's there's got to be
the wall. They put the wall up.
That's right. Is how do you do it in being a part of our society? I mean, it's nuts to live the way we live.
Absolutely nuts.
Every individual family having, I think about, I mean, it's like, we were at the Bodensteiners last night. We were sitting there swimming it, and we went over at 5 o'clock, Dylan and I. Come about 6:30, Pat says, well, why don't you stay for dinner? They got this woman who comes in once a month and cooks. She cooks all day long. I don't know, and she brings in all the food. And they got these nice meals that are frozen away. And I think about, our life and how we live. I mean, I could get it together, I mean, we all work. Who's got time to cook?
Got to be done differently.
And so, whether it's you hire somebody to come in so you can have some decent meals, or whether, if you had some common space, some contact, then I could cook a decent meal a couple times a week, for everybody.
A year ago, I had made comment that I would like to go to visit the rest in order to go to kibbutz, visit some kibbutzes. I don't know if you recall it. I told a lot of people that. I really was serious. Several things interfered with that. So I went to Guatemala instead. The reason I wanted to go is the kibbutz is a model, but it doesn't work. But nobody in the world has had, this is a deliberate choice, has had such experiences and that kind of living you're talking about as the folks there, the Bushes, for many years. And I just felt I could learn a lot from their experiences. The ingredient that I knew had to be involved, I meant to bring it back to Valpo. The ingredient is that it has to be incognito. For me, I don't know why it didn't work, but I do know the kibbutz is nothing what they had hoped for. Tel Aviv runs Israel, not the kibbutz. That isn't what they hoped for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
On the other hand, it's probably not without its lessons.
Oh, it's got tons of lessons and good stuff. But I wanted to learn from that good stuff and experiences. But then I know my town. I know what can be done and not be done fairly well. And I wanted to see if I could bring some new thinking, new ideas, new experiences to bear to get what you're talking about, without having an enclave and everybody staring at it and walking around it and so forth, but have it really integrated into society, incognito style. That may be stupid, but I know I couldn't do it the way the kibbutz did it, or didn't want to do it with a covenant house block folks or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It had to be very, very different, and so I'm just sort of agreeing with the idea.
Yeah, I think about the ecumenical.
How to is difficult.
The Ecumenical Institute.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Macumber and those people. I mean, they had what they called an intentional community or whatever. And I don't know if they all lived in the same house or they lived different places.
Yeah. Or the Reba house in Evanston. Yeah.
And I know those people from back in 1970 or something. And they got their own way of talking, their own language, their own jargon, and developed a good deal of suspicion amongst other people. They were not trusted because, you know what I'm talking about there. I don't know how
No, that's what.
I don't know how you avoid that.
No, well, you one way to avoid it is the democratic. You talk these things very carefully, and you look at other people that have done things. You critique the Reba house, the kibbutz, and so forth. You learn what was good about it, what was bad about it, and now you have to invent. There's no other way. But the invention has to be some folks that want to do it together, inventing it. It's not a top-down program. It's what can we do? How can we move in this direction, this direction? That's maybe just a vacation house first. The kids have to grow too in the thing. They're not used to sharing. Et cetera, et cetera. That's going to take some real thinking through. What we're doing with children today is so ridiculous it isn't even funny. It's exactly opposite of what we're talking about, what we're doing with children.
I guess I thought, when I was coming of age in the early 70s, late 60s, I thought my friends were people that I would share with whatever I had the rest of my life. It was, you know what I'm talking about? Is that kind of thought there? And we don't do any of that. Not really.
We're taking 12 black kids and a brown to camp. And it will be good for the white kids from Michigan and good for the black kids from Valpo. Or where are the white kids from Valpo?
Well,
it's not simple. We have to do phase 1 first. Get them up.
Yeah, no, and I guess what I was saying is the kind of sharing that Project Neighbors has asked people to do is really, in your words, just kindergarten.
Oh,
I mean, it's $30 a month that's not sharing.
and
That's not giving up anything.
And the Mary Brelands and everything, who are not about to share with other people in their category, they're into survival. Hopefully, one of these days they'll question about their getting stuff from people. Why did that happen? I don't know. I mean, it's still kindergarten.
I mean, there are dreams out there. I'm just thinking about my own as a young person, is thinking, from each and to each, kind of whatever you can contribute, whatever you need, you get. And amongst your group of friends, whatever it is. I think about, probably there was more going on in some respects in the early VBA days. And I know that the kind of relationship you've had with the Rast and the Ludwigs, there must have been some dreams about that. I don't know what's happened with that in terms of it.
Yeah, not too much, but because everybody's still doing their thing in Israel. But just a drop in the bucket. When Annie said something about, don't forget I'm going to college, what's triggered in my head is folks that are into the possibility, the remote possibility of this sharing community. I can't name them all, okay? I don't know who they are. This college thing is getting ridiculous. Now, whether it's Kelvin or Tabitha or Dylan or Leslie or Gabriella or white, black, rich, poor, affirmative action, egalitarian, whatever, that a group of folks begin to offer a scholarship to college, or maybe start with a profession for teachers, teacher education, something that has a shot at it, maybe. But that person is expected to come back and serve the community for X number of years or something. Now, what's going to happen is the Tabithas and the Kelvins going to take advantage of it, and well-to-do white kids won't. Well, that's their choice, but it should be open, and somehow a criterion is made. People come together. It should not be on who can read the fastest. I guess the main principle I'm saying is to begin to have a community not let a parent worry about the cost. If a kid wants to come back and serve the community for a while, a period of time, one wants to be a doctor with a lot of pro bono, or a teacher who is keenly charged up for busting homogenization on the one hand and opening doors on the other, stuff like that. I don't know. Those are just beginning thoughts. But if a bunch of people put their heads together, rich and poor, we'll work out the tuition stuff. Meanwhile, the moment you get to high school, it starts going this way. Rich over here, poor over here. Guaranteed. That's disaster for both.
And they start with this tracking stuff. It's just unbelievable.
Oh, I hate it.
Day one of high school, it's like, if you want to get to a good college, then the courses you select as a freshman in high school matter.
See, that's one of my 5, which we haven't even come close to talking about. 5 actions, all integrated, would deal with. that subject right there. That would be necessary for this absurd world not to continue. I was telling Ivan yesterday, I mean, I'm just babbling here, but absurd. I told you on the super Harvard doctor, in the OJ case. Now, anybody's common sense, 3 or 4 days is spent on this shit, of whether he's capable of physically killing anybody. The doctor, the expert, has proven insinuating that he couldn't. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, anybody with any common sense at all looks at OJ and knows damn well this 220-pound dude can kill if he wanted to. I don't care if it hurt him. He could kill if he wanted to. He might stumble, but he could kill if he wanted. But that was totally wiped out. Now it's fact against fact.
Well, the defense is grasping at straws, trying to discredit what is intuitively obvious to everybody.
Yeah.
Is that he's big enough, he's strong enough, and
but that goes out the window after a while. And did the defense win, or did the prosecution win on this technical point? Prosecution came back with beautiful stuff. I'm amazed. I thought, oh God, they got a problem. They did their homework, man. They knew more about rheumatism or arthritis than any doctor I've ever heard. But it was fact against fact and nothing to do with common sense is all I'm trying to say. And I don't know why I'm bringing that up. There was a reason, but I forgot.
You're talking to Ivan.
Yeah. But I don't know why I brought the whole episode up. Common sense.
Crazy world we live in.
Absurd world. Yeah, that's absurd. I mean, 3 days of testimony had nothing to do with common sense. That's absurd. I mean, when common sense says, what are we doing this for? That's an absurd world. And there it is for the public to see.
Well, the whole trial and the way we deal with crime and problems
proving my point
is absurd.
Absurd.
Is because the society's rules mandate that we deal with OJ in a certain kind of way. That is, we have to consider whether we're going to kill him for what he did or didn't do. Because of all these things, then you've got to go through this kind of ridiculous exercise.
And
it's kind of counterintuitive. I mean, did he kill him? Well, let's find out. Ask him.
And the money's nothing. This one guy was offered about 4 different tens, $20,000, and all he could even offer to the equation was sitting across the aisle from him in a plane, and he looked okay to me. And if he gave that testimony to Dateline, he gets $10,000. But the money for OJ, that's nothing. I mean, so it cost him what, $3 million? I don't know what it'll cost. I have no idea. With all these high-priced lawyers, if he's guilty, you need the shit anyhow. If he's not guilty, he'd get that back tenfold on his volume 1. He'll get that up front before he even writes a word. It's absurd world. And no, that's what we got to combat. Education is a major area. The way we're going in elementary, high school, and college is a guarantee that we will have an absurd world. It's a guarantee. You said it, tracking. Everything we're doing in education is a guarantee. And the question is, does it have to be that way? No, it doesn't have to be that way.
I was
Everybody
shocked.
says the answer is education, but all they're trying to do is make it even more absurd. Everything that's suggested.
I was shocked. I went to the orientation before Annie went to high school. You know, she's a senior in middle school or whatever it is. You go for this orientation, what it's going to be like next year. And I was just awed by, it was like going to college. The tracking was not only there, but it was blatantly out in the open. They talked about, you know, this track and that track and the other track and, you know, how you blah, 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 blah. And
it's a contradiction to any liberal arts.
I thought that if tracking was going on, people would be embarrassed by it. You know, because I'm back from the old New University Conference days where we spent a whole lot of time trying to wipe that out. And I thought we'd won. We didn't win.
Hell no, you didn't.
I mean, I thought that we won that battle because at the time, back 71, 2, 3, whatever, is the last time I paid any attention to tracking because we wrote on it.
Got rid of grading.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we were getting rid of grading, but I knew grading was going to stay there. But the last time I paid any
system
attention,
beat that by simply saying that the ungraded courses don't count.
That's right. But I thought that we'd gotten rid of tracking in the sense that poor kids, dumb kids, you know, everybody was going to be tried to be moved along. No, they want to like, there you're headed, you know. I was appalled.
Should be.
I mean, by the fact that they weren't embarrassed by it.
And now your problem comes if you question it, you'll be an asshole. You're against progress. If you publicly question that, you'll be against progress. Because that's the answer to our problems today.
Well, the criticism is going to be, well, then you want everybody to be mediocre.
Yeah.
You know,
That'd be one of them.
You don't want to serve, you don't want smart kids to have the advantage. You want everybody to be given one-dimensional education.
And that's a contradiction in terms of smart, but because the more you track, the less thinking you'll do. It's like what we were talking about before. The more I'm busy, the less thinking I'm doing. The more you're on a project, the less thinking you'll do. Now what are you going to do about it? You're not going to do it alone. You're not going to do it alone. But it does, I believe with a passion that things don't have to be absurd. And everything you described is guaranteed to make our society more absurd. Guaranteed. Because you not only don't think, common sense drifts farther and farther away as a kid is tracked. It has nothing to do with the direction they're going. Nothing. So there'll be a pro in the courtroom on showing how this healthy 220-pound giant couldn't have done it. Here's the facts. I examined his medulla oblongata. There was scar tissue from his football days. He couldn't have done it. He's a paraplegic.
His arm couldn't come up at the right angle.
Right angle. Hell, mine can't he? See, he'd take that finger. I'm serious. This is what he was doing. Every joint in his body. He'd take that finger. And he had heavy medical terms. He says, now, on his index finger, pretty important to the hand, and the operation of the hand, he had no movement, only he used medical terms. Yeah. He described my finger, and I'm lucky to sign my name, you know.
After he gets done with you. Yeah. Well, I mean, and you think of
but
all...
he gets an A. That guy gets an A for winning.
And people spend their lives doing this meaningful stuff.
That's right, meaningless. They're good with facts, but see, that's in the middle centuries. In the middle centuries, fact was unimportant. Truth was where it was at. And Marx called that opium of the people. If you were to read a science book, and I have one at home just to show this, science book written in 1500, 1200, there would be 6 pages on the 6 chapters on aesthetics before you even got started, and then finish up with 3 on morality, and somewhere along the line a couple numbers in there. That would be a science book. Today, we have allowed, this is absurdity, we have allowed fact to be the truth. Don't give me your shit. Don't give me your ideas. Don't give me your opinion. Opinion and ideas were what was valued 500 years ago. Facts were not valued. And Marx said, hey, wait a minute. There's some people out there. There's a lot of numbers out there. What's more important is how you sat straight up and down in church, on a straight back chair. Today, facts are the truth, which is, etc. But your ideas and your opinions are worth more than the numbers to me. In Annie's track, every day that goes by, the numbers, the R&D, the research and development, the numbers become more important and ideas and opinions become less important. Every day that goes by. To the point she's in grad school, ideas and opinions don't mean shit, nothing. Just give me the numbers. That's an absurd world.
But yet everybody will tell you that figures lie and liars figure. I mean, they know that. I mean, don't people know?
Yes, but everything that we do, okay, including the people that say that, everything that a sociologist, that's everybody, sociologists, whether it's psychosociology or medical sociology or physics sociology or whatever, all those studies, which narrow one item down to one item that they're doing the research on, all those studies, without exception, say we are determined. That's what they're proving. We're determined. You with me? So far? 90%. If you eat sawdust, will come out with cancer or something.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, all action now is based on that. Now, what all those studies say is you're determined. Now, the college prof that does the research never puts him or herself into the hopper. I mean, they live and die on their research and on their numbers. We're determined, da-da-da-da-da-da. I've shown it here, I've proven it here. None of them believe that they are determined. Somehow they're left out. They come at it as a neutral. And every day that goes by, we rely, thanks to R&D, more and more on the numbers. People spend $500,000 for 20 seconds of commercial time. It's a lot of bread. Commercial time. One commercial time on a big event. That $500,000, that's real. That's based on everything I'm saying. That if we put that on, I'll guarantee you that X number will buy X number and so forth. It works. It's predicted. It's determined.
If Pepsi advertises on the Super Bowl, the next week they'll sell X number of cases of Pepsi.
Yeah. We're
And
determined.
in fact, they probably do sell ex-member-cations.
Yes, that's right.
But you didn't buy one.
You didn't buy one. You don't understand how powerful this instrument is, and it doesn't take into account the wholeness of the person. I mean, but I will get you to buy one whether you wanted to or not, because the commercial is now built on other R&D. If you show this, there isn't any commercial that doesn't have an upper class background of consumerism and so forth. Any commercial you want to name. I mean, whether you're on a newfangled surfboard with a motor, God knows what, to get a Pepsi or, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's selling the American way, which is high standard of living. It's selling that as a background. That's all based on we're determined by the numbers. Now, the researcher might not do it, but where's the strength coming from to say no to that old ball of wax? I want to be the American way. I want to be somebody. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Where's the strength coming from to say no to what these commercials do to people? Why should we question it? There's nothing anymore. Traditional values are gone. A traditional Christian would question certain areas of stuff. A traditional Muslim would question certain. All that's being broken down. All Protestant churches not too long ago questioned insurance and investment, as we've talked about. It's all gone. American way is insurance and investment is gone. There's no more strength coming from whatever was in there, good or bad, to the question.
There's no strength from the truth because the facts
are there. I mean, it works. If it works, it sells. It goes for crime and everything else. Murder. But facts have become the truth. Now, I don't want to go back to when truth was the facts, because I don't like opium of the people. And Marx was absolutely correct when he saw a world in which facts didn't mean anything. Look, we got folks out there by the score dying, hunger. Oh, but they're right with God. They love their Lord. The Lord has blessed the poor. That's the truth, okay? But where are the facts? How come they're poor? Why are they poor? The Lord wills it.
That's a lie. See, that
wasn't then. Wasn't then.
Yeah, but that's not the truth.
No, it's not the truth. But that's where facts and truth have to be in tension with each other, because you don't get close to the truth without facts. I mean, when Bretcher came to me 2 Sundays ago, probably told you this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Walt, how are you? His words were much better. I can't make them up right now. I said, fine. Is the Lord walking with you? Yeah, I think so. And I said my cholesterol count came down 110 in the last 2 months, and that's neat. Well, then it shows the Lord's working with you. It shows that I had a good cardiologist who recommended some pretty good chemistry, and then my wife made for really good nutrition. I think I had a lot to do with it, Paul. It's like pulling the rug out from under me. My facts, he didn't want anything to do with my facts.
He just wanted the truth of the Lord's helping you.
He wanted His truth.
Yeah.
I would argue that theologically, from beginning to the end of the Bible, truth and the temporal world are always in tension with one another. Every example, every word, there's no systematics there. There's no philosophy, there's no metaphysics. Now there was this father, he had two sons. One wanted his inheritance now, by God. It's real. It's real life. You know. The Lord walked with him. That didn't mean he wasn't an asshole. and all of a sudden, it says something about the Lord walking with you in spite of your being an asshole. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or it says a little bit more than he found Jesus. And he earned it.
Is Brecher retired?
Yeah, but he preaches now, man. And he sits at his computer night and day. He knows freedom. I don't want to bore you with this, but I've known the man a long time. I've had a lot to do with him. If he's in his church clergy circle, he'll stand as tall as anybody. Believe me. He will not waver. Here I stand. He's a Lutheran. The problem is, world is about that small, when it's way out here. I mean, he can't put anything together with that. If it's just Bible verses on Bible verses, he'll stand tall. And he'll say the right thing, and he'll be strong. But he can't relate it to the prodigal. Or he can't relate it to Walt. Had a good cardiologist.
Well, is that blasphemous for him, or is it?
That's a good question. I don't call it. It's just not real. It's not where it's at. That's all. And see, that to me is heresy. It's real heresy. He preached a sermon that Loie went to, and I got a little feedback from Carl and from Loie on it. Same thing he did in '68. He put down all revolutions. No. Christians are called to walk with all folks in the world striving for freedom and liberation. They should question, they should limit it to folks who are nonviolent. I mean, I would not walk with somebody who advocates killing somebody so I can be free. But whether it's the women's movement, children's movement, black liberation, or anything, I walk with all of them. It's not the freedom that I know. But if I don't walk with that search for freedom, then I'm wasting my time here on earth and the Lord's time. And I'm to raise questions that they won't raise. They'll become more and more weathermen as they go if nobody's there raising questions. And nobody was there raising questions. Instead, they were just being put down. Had good Christian folks walk with SDS and say, you really got something. I think you got to recognize that you don't know politics too well, you haven't experienced this too well, or you haven't experienced different traditional modes. But listen to them, dialogue with them, talk with them, and they wouldn't have become weathermen. I'm making it simple and fast.
Well, lots of them didn't. I mean, I was there, and the lure of the Maoist who went and bought guns and the weatherman for young people who had no history. I mean, I honestly thought that, we were the first radicals in the history of the country,
I got to butt in here on that one. My father, who was practically a parasite and everything, real smart up here, but never did a political move in his life. a hotel in Chicago. We went to see sometimes, and I took him there. Everything was going on in Chicago. He knew I was part of it, And that's exactly what he said. He started listing, there was a revolution much like this in 1620 or 1410, and also in here in 1003. There was really just like this, and it made me mad for a moment because I too thought I was in the first revolution,
Yeah.
But I heard him.
It didn't take much. I mean, and that was my whole generation.
That took a traditional conservative father.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I understand. And I'm saying that my whole generation, we thought we were the first ever to do any of this stuff. I mean, whether it was a sexual revolution or the, smoking dope or that's right. Whatever it was, we thought we were the first when in fact we weren't by a long shot on any of it. And we were totally uneducated. I mean, at least people who'd done it before knew that it had happened before, and we were blind to all that. But it didn't take a whole lot. I mean, there was one guy, Wells Keddy, at our university who had been a socialist all his life, not a communist, not a party member or anything, but worked for Henry Wallace in 48 and, had been a labor guy. And the input from him, just a little bit of history, a little bit of experience about how you organize people, about, a little bit of question about, now, why do you want to do that? He wanted the revolution to go forward, but he didn't want crazy stuff to happen.
Because it would stop the revolution.
That's right. And he always questioned. I mean, it was always, questions about, well, why would you do that? I mean, that doesn't work. And lots of people turned away from.
Saul Alinsky made a contribution.
Sure. I mean, somebody who had some history. When
he was up in front of a big audience at Northwestern, some left-wingers were practically charging him with not being left enough or something.
Sure.
You asshole. He put them down like nobody's business. That's another way to do it. I mean,
but, when you're saying it's some good Christian folk, and though Wells is not a Christian by a long shot, the point is well taken. If some people would pay attention, question what was going on, it doesn't take a whole lot to turn people away from that kind of extremist weatherman kind of thing. I could have become a weatherman. I mean, fairly easily if I hadn't had some influences. I mean, anything was permitted. Takes just a little bit of sanity to bring people around.
Lloyd and I went to Washington with only one major reason. It was a nothing drop in the bucket. But at that time, if you were under 30, over 30, you were out of the revolution. You weren't in. You might as well be anything they wanted to call you. And we just wanted to put a question mark by being there.
Well, and there weren't a whole lot of people over 30 who participated. I mean, there were some.
There were some.
But
they were not in the decision-making groups very much. I was tolerated with, oh man, all of it.
Well, maybe, it may be hard to judge your own impact.
Bill Hampton was the first one after his world totally crumbled. I was the first one he came to, Fred's brother and stuff like that. So the impact was subtly there, down deep with it. Rennie Davis, same thing. Anyhow, we started with sort of, but you're in, as a Christian, I am called to especially be with people who are fighting for liberation, particularly for others, and freedom. And I have to first clean out those that openly advocate violence. The means by which we operate, I can't function that way. The communists are out immediately, because any means necessary is, no way can that be tolerated. I wrote a little thing because I studied Vietnam a lot. I'll share that with Biggie. We were right, in my estimation, in fighting communism, and including in Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh didn't represent all the boys by a long shot. What had taken place for many years prior to the French leaving even, and so forth, was not very nice. My argument is that you do not, sort of what we're talking about, what comes first on the kibbutz here in the Balfour and so forth. We were Marxists in a way. You don't fight communism with bombs and napalm. No way do you fight it with bombs and napalm. Any more than you fight SDS with bombs and napalm. You just make them harder.
Make them stronger.
Stronger and harder. And so people, I mean, my whole staff in other studies couldn't stand me on Vietnam. But totally against communism. But you don't understand Marxism if you think they were against the war, of course, and I was against the war, but for two different reasons. Ho Chi Minh was where it was at. Bullshit. We got where it was at after they totally won the war and developed more proletariats in the world, and one per capita than the world has ever seen. Immediately for 15 years. So the means are very important.
Well, it's interesting. I was always very pro-communist.
Started that way, didn't last long.
And my wake-up call came by going to Cuba and seeing it.
That's absolutely right.
And it was, there's a lot of good things that have happened here, from what was, I mean, they're building a lot of houses, they're building a lot of medical clinics, they provide a lot of jobs for people, and that's better than having people begging on the street and being whores for North America. All of that is fine. But I come from a country where freedom of speech means something. And
you didn't get it there.
And where open debate, and where, you don't have to edit what you say for fear of repression by the state.
Or check in with the police as you go from one village to the next.
That wasn't even, that may have happened, but it was mainly, when I met the young communists in Cuba, their counterparts in America were young Republicans. I think I've told you this, because they joined the party to get ahead. And we came from question.
It's necessary.
No, not any means necessary, but we came from the proposition that all authority ought to be questioned. I mean, you ought to question what's going on here. And in Cuba, the questions were not proper. And it's like, and you bring revolutionaries in from all around the world, young people, to build in Cuba, and you can't question. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. And it caused,
I know exactly.
It caused and so it's it may be that the practice of the democratic processes of the open debate, more speech rather than less speech, is.
They love dialogue and talks as long as you don't question that ideology. The goal is to talk till you are into the ideology 100%. I was invited by the most successful Soviet state, East Germany. I was invited indirectly by that regime to spend most of the summer there. And I really hadn't said much. Everything you're talking about, I experienced, and couldn't believe the price that had to be paid for equal distribution. It's unbelievable, Somehow they must have known my inner thoughts, because I couldn't even get a normal visa after that back there. I was blocked at every turn. I tried for months to get them to go back. Blocked at every turn. I must have said something wrong to somebody somewhere over there.
Well, they didn't read your thoughts.
Came close. But unbelievable, the propaganda. God dang. I mean, talk about absurd.
But I still, there's absurdity and there's absurdity. And when you compare, for instance, Cuba before Castro to Cuba after Castro.
Or Easter, I agree.
The absurdity before was, it is an incredible price to pay for equal distribution, or fairly equal distribution. It's not equal, but it's comes closer. For the ideal of equal distribution, even, you pay a heavy price, but I'm not sure it's one that you have to pay.
Well, if you do pay it, here's the major point for me. If you do pay it, I think it's going to cost for equal distribution. I think it's a big price that has to be paid, and I think it should be paid. But you cannot use force to do it. It has to be done by persuasion, dialogue, and awareness. Could be Lloyd.
Hello. Hi. Yeah,
we're quitting. We're quitting.
Okay. We're coming. Sure, it's okay.
Where you got to go?
Facilitate a young capitalist.
Yeah, I got to go anyhow.
Yeah, the price that's got to be paid, though, it doesn't have to do with what you think.
You have to pray. I mean, like if we have a vacation, joint vacation place or something, we have to give up certain privacies. We have to give up some stuff. And we have to risk a little. We don't know how it's going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the way Americans operate. Now, Europeans know a lot more about this style of life, because you take Germany in 1872, the union paid 1/3, the private paid 1/3, the state paid 1/3 for social benefits that we're just now coming to.
Mm-hmm.
That was 1872 when they formed a country called Germany. I mean, so they don't have questions on some things that we do, and that's why the 60s in this country are so crazy compared. The whole world was into the 60s.
Yeah.
But very different. I mean, we had to go against piety, so we were super here, super there, and much more than they were. Everything was much more good versus evil over here.
Mm-hmm.
And that has to be taken into account where you are, and the price is a very difficult one because the price for the New World Order is that you voluntarily say no to a higher standard of living. I mean, that's a starting point. Here, everything we started with, going to school, is to make damn sure you're on a track that gets you a higher standard of living. And now we're talking about deliberately choosing to come together and have a lower standard of living. The hell I go to school for? Anyhow. It's always supposed to go to Chicago.